Note, this post was originally found in DeviantArt. The image of the Looney Tunes logo, except with the words, "Read the description," was layered over it. The image's description is the same one in the paragraph below. The post remained up for only an hour before it was removed by the user itself. I was fortunate enough to copy and paste it before it vanished. Now, why don't I go into actually reading about the events that took place in this post? So, without further ado, the post. I am a college student. I'm looking to keep this project in the dark as much as possible, which is why I'm posting this under a duplicate account. I'm looking to hire a team of professionals to help me animate the story. One that is a different take on the show. A show that I'm sure you're familiar with. If you think I'm a blind fanatic that isn't prepared to be a director, I will show you some of my work if you're curious. However, I think it's important to explain where I got my inspiration from. It was this weekend, and I was about age 19. My family offered to pay me if I did some babysitting for their niece. Since it was only for 2 days, of course I accepted the offer. I couldn't complain. My family was known for being generous and overpaying for services to their home and yard. They were a little bit more on the richer side. I also needed money for my hobbies. Speaking of hobbies, my niece had a number of them. She would play video games, watch shows, and show me projects she was working on in her arts and crafts class. Everything worked out fine until I noticed something strange in her behavior. Whenever Looney Tunes played on the television, she would always walk away or do something else. This made me curious and downright confused because she used to watch and love this show. But I didn't say anything about it at first. It wasn't just the show. Every merchandise related to Looney Tunes would cause her to try and get away as quickly as possible, of course in a rather discreet manner. I took my niece to Walmart. We had to go there to grab some groceries and supplies for our arts and crafts class, and as I picked up some colored pencils, I heard my niece yelp as if something had startled her. It turned out she noticed a coloring book that had Bugs Bunny in front of it. She always wanted to leave the aisle as quickly as possible. Or at least she wanted to. I covered the book and then checked out the store with her. I didn't understand my niece's behavior, and I don't know anyone who would have in my position. I'm just a stupid 19-year-old college kid. I know Looney Tunes was weird at times, but they're still friendly despite the banned episodes that were banned because of 1950s racism. I know it's something that can be enjoyed by both kids and adults, too. That's what made the show amazing back then. Not to sound like a complete 90s kid or whatever. I had to show my niece delight. Maybe I could have convinced her to, like the Looney Tunes again. About an hour later, I finally had the courage to ask about the show. My niece apologized for her behavior at the store. She was always a lovely little lass, despite being startled. She didn't do anything to warrant an apology, though. I should quickly mention, she just tried to leave the aisle and, furthermore, my view without much explanation. But I accepted it regardless, she was being a cute little girl, if you know what I'm saying. After talking to her for a little bit, I convinced her to tell me about the experiences she had with the Looney Tunes, as I was kind of curious to why she was acting in the manner she was. She was watching the television one night, apparently, while one of her babysitters was cooking. It wasn't the actual show, it was a spin-off, Baby Looney Tunes. If you don't know anything about the show, it takes place in a home run by Granny. She's the one who always is beating up Sylvester for being a dull idiot. It was a dull, boring experience, with most of the episodes having nothing interesting to look at. The cast also had little personality compared to their regular adult counterparts, similar to babies in real life, surprisingly. The only purpose was to have morals at the end of the show to teach kids right from wrong. The icing on the cake were the forgettable songs. I actually kind of remember the show a little bit. My niece claimed that an episode she watched started off at the Granny's residence. The baby Looney Tune cast is playing, and everyone watches Tasmanian chase the pig around the playroom. Then they go back to doing what they're doing. Afterwards, Sylvester shows up, entering the room, and he looks nervous. Sylvester then goes up to Bugs and Daffy, who are passing around an inflatable ball, and he tries to talk to Bugs and Daffy, but stutters a bit, unable to get his sentence out, and then quickly runs off. Bugs tries to go after Sylvester, but Daffy stops him, telling him that there's nothing at all to worry about. Daffy believes that it's none of their business, and that Bugs, should leave it alone. Bugs lets out a sigh, and despite the situation, Bugs and Daffy quickly go back to playing. Nonchalantly, of course. Sylvester is seen wandering about the home. He bumps into Melissa Duck and quickly runs off after Melissa tried greeting him. He is seen trying to hide from everyone, but is found at each attempt. Sylvester gives up as he discovered 4 times and then heads towards the kitchen. He finds Granny. She is cooking something. Sylvester quickly noticed their caretaker, and Granny looks at Sylvester, asking him what's wrong. After Granny's question, my niece told me the rest of the scene only showed Sylvester, who was stuttering words around. It takes him a little for him to break out of this stuttering, but she remarked at how slow the scene seemed to move, and how the show seemed rather slow compared to its normally fast pace. It was boring, but no one would ever say it was slow. And then he would say his first line in the episode. I want to eat Tweety. The next scene reveals that 2 days have passed. Bugs and Daffy are now drawing. Their skills aren't as good since they were infants. Because infants can't draw because they're fucking infants, and they shouldn't even be drawing in the first place because they're fucking infants. Nonetheless, Daffy points out that he hadn't seen Sylvester in a few days, which causes Bugs to become concerned. He finally convinces Daffy that they need to find him. The two explore the household, looking under various objects, and it isn't until they reach a empty room, a room that isn't shown in any other episodes, that Sylvester's found. He's locked in a cage. The cage is supposedly rigged with electrical wires around it. It would been normal for a main series, but this was shown in the watered-down spin-off that would rarely show violence whatsoever. After all, they're babies. The last thing parents wanted was their show, their kids watching a show about babies beating each other. A show that also had no signs of violence or abuse before this. Bugs is terrified. He's not taking this very well. He asks Sylvester why he was being punished, and he replies by telling Bugs that he's a monster, and that he needs to be locked away for everyone's protection. When questioned about it, Sylvester said that he was only taking Granny's advice. It then cuts abruptly to Tweety, who is crying and being comforted by Granny. A couple of bandages were applied to a weird bite mark. Tweety is sobbing at the pain he was in, unable to control his tears. Why would someone do this, Granny? It's one of my friends. Did I do something bad? Granny then spoke up. It's all part of growing up. Friends will eventually show your true colors and think for themselves. Everyone's destined to break away and hate each other at some point. Tweety's sobbing worsen. When you're older, all of you will understand. After Granny's speech, Bugs and Daffy are shown arguing. Bugs wants to free Sylvester, while Daffy is paranoid and wants to keep him locked. The two begin yelling at each other. Lola hears the commotion in another room and rushes to where the two arguing are taking place. She is horrified at what she sees, Bugs beating up Daffy physically, as she backs away without Bugs noticing her presence, and then runs away. Daffy is now unconscious. Bugs tries to free Sylvester, who tries to scare Bugs away by threatening him. Before Bugs can unlock the cage, Granny enters the room. She ignores Bugs, grabbing the cage and simply leaving. Granny is never shown again, implying that she's abandoning everyone. Bugs leaves the caged room. Everything in the house is now decayed and falling apart. Bugs tries to call out for his friends, believing that they're all playing outside. Before he leaves the house, Bugs shortly finds a straight pathway and decides to follow it. After Bugs walks the path for a little while, Bugs runs into Wile E. Coyote, who's trying to catch the Roadrunner. Bugs ignores the two and continues to walk until he finds Petunia Pig, exhausted, getting dragged off by Taz. When he reaches the end of the hallway, Bugs finds that all of his old friends, a lot of characters, were presented. Marvin the Martian is traumatized. Sylvester's free from his cage, giving his feline nature, and not looking like his old toddler self. He was trying to catch something, but what he was trying to catch remains a mystery. Now, this is my niece's memories were a little muffled. Upon seeing Sylvester, my niece closed her eyes, and the rest of the episode was just sobbed. There are more characters presented after Sylvester, also before the episode ended, but there was one final line that my niece remembers. This is the one price of maturity. This is said by Bugs before the episode ends. My niece broke into tears after finishing her story. I had no choice but to believe her. These weren't crocodile tears, and she was only like 10 or 11. She can't make up a story as elaborate as this. Not to mention, she did nothing wrong to lie about it in the first place. I tried comforting her, trying to explain that Looney Tunes wasn't ever meant to be taken seriously. Am I right to believe her? Am I gullible? But the amount of detail she described to me by my niece was amazing. Even if the episode didn't exist and it was all lies, she knew how to make up a story. I knew that kids were creative, but it was also strange to hear my niece talking about something this dark in a kids show. A kids show that was supposed to be a watered-down version of another kids show. I sat down at my television earlier in the morning to catch baby Looney Tunes in the hopes of seeing that episode, but I gave up after a few weeks of regular episodes. I guess I should have been persistent some more. I apologize if I've taken a bit of your time. I know it's selfish on my part, but this is where you come in. If you're still interested in working with me and try to recreate this episode, send me an email. This is a darker take on my childhood, and it intrigues me. Once I get enough people, I will remove this post. Now, as I stated before, the fucking thing disappeared after about an hour. I know for a fact that he did get any emails because the email section was left blank. Now, this leaves me in an odd position. I saw the damn thing, and it was gone. Not only was that gone, but the person's Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, and all associated media was taken down immediately afterwards. I don't know what to think, but to be frank, I think I'm willing to continue the research into this episode, this seemingly normal thing that's been this innocent tale that was told by this guy's niece. I'll see if I can dig up anything. I mean, there's the Wayback Machine, right? We could always look up old web pages, but even when I look up the, DeviantArt at this hour, at this web link, I can't seem to find a post anywhere, so it might take me a little while to write up anything else. But in the meantime, simply stay tuned. I'm sure I can dig something up. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. And please, just be careful. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Before we go into the review, I might as well clear up a few things to the last video. A quick little note that I'd like to make is that, one, the videos are back up now. The videos that were taken down was every single video I made in the past 5 months, or at least any video that contained her artwork, i.e. the reviews that you see right now. As you can tell, I'm using a bit of a different image, no expressions, because I don't want to use her art. I don't want to promote Anemone anymore, and I rather not even credit her if I don't have to. So, yeah, enjoy the artwork done by The Recurrent, a lovely little artist who is someone I can actually recommend to people. She's been a friend ever since I started the channel, and actually was one of the first artists I worked with. So, you can find her Tumblr or link in the description. In fact, I actually haven't stopped crediting The Recurrent. She's actually someone who I've actually always have promoted in the past. But I think she deserves a special mention for all the hard work she did drawing the channel icon and the channel background that you see even to this day. So with that being said, why don't I quickly also give a little bit more information, because I'm a terrible person. Some people said that I should not have brought it public, because that makes no sense. One, I had to bring it public. I have a Patreon. People subscribe to my Patreon so they can be informed on what happens with the channel. It's not like the person threatened to copyright me. It's not like the person said something stupid on Skype and I made a video about it. No. The person decided to actually make a DMCA claim. And if you don't know what that is, it's when you claim that you own a video and someone stole it from you. That means you're infringing on their copyright and YouTube's taking down the video until it gets resolved. In the meantime, I cannot make custom thumbnails, I cannot upload videos longer than 15 minutes, and I believe I actually receive less promotion through YouTube and other media sources as a result. Not to mention, all the videos that were claimed as hers are set to private. So technically, the videos never were taken down, it just, the videos were there until, you know, I got the copyright deal with. It took me about 2 days to actually get the situation resolved, and that means 25 of my most latest videos were taken down, which basically means that I didn't receive any revenue from those, and I had to remake all the thumbnails for said videos. So instead of having this up on Wednesday, I now had to record this on Wednesday night at 2:53 in the morning so I can get it to you now. So yes, I'm sorry, but the person fucked with my upload schedule, fucked with my channel, and made me have to upload things late, which is why I'm sharing this with you people. The person attacked a channel, you are a part of my channel, so that's why I'm telling you. Not to mention, I cannot fully supporting someone who does DMCA claims on people who pay for art. So with that being said, let's dig into the review. The story was a Patreon's request. I should mention this because this was sponsored in a way. I can't remember the person's name, but I believe I can actually go on the wiki and see this. This was written by a person known as Krokon, Kerokon, Krokon. And it has 0 comments, so if you ever want to actually check out the story, just look into the links in the description and you can find it. And the story is simply called Looking for a Professional Artist. It actually kind of reminds me of my situation right now. But essentially, I actually do enjoy this story. It begins with a note basically saying that the thing was found on DeviantArt. The person then goes through the tale that was found on DeviantArt, which is a rather interesting take. This isn't the person claiming, and then the Scooby-Doo started bleeding, because only bad people do that. Instead, it actually goes into what happened, and this is not only a second-hand reading of someone else's work, this is a second-hand reading of a second-hand's writing, of recounting a tale written, no, not written, but told by their little niece. And to be frank, I actually like that. It's interesting. It adds a layer of not dynamics, but it adds a layer upon layer of intrigue. It adds backstory. It adds a little bit more believability. Even in the thing, it admits that the character was, you know, possibly crazy, or possibly even just a character, or possibly even just a kid lying. Who knows? But nonetheless, he gives his reasons on why he believes her, and he simply wants to recreate the episode. The interesting bit is why it was taken down, and that is the scary part. Not only was it taken down, all associated media was taken down. I'll admit I add that part for a little flair, but you know what? I think it works. And I'd really encourage the writer who actually contacted me to continue this series or continue this as a series. I'd really love to hear more about the character actually trying to find more about the episode or more about lost episodes in general. Nonetheless, it wasn't necessarily scary, but what it does have is a lot of interesting themes. If you notice, in the actual story itself, you'll notice that characters start getting more grim dark. And you'll notice that the actual Baby Looney Tunes show was indeed a watered-down version of the main series. Violence that happens in the show doesn't usually happen in Baby Looney Tunes, and when you start seeing that things subtly entering the show, it doesn't come off as them saying, "Oh, look at the blood." It comes them off as saying, "Oh my god, cartoon violence is being introduced to a show that is known for not having it." Nonetheless, it then, it talks about how Sylvester tried to eat Tweety, and it sets up the premise for how Sylvester tries to eat Tweety in the actual main series. Bugs beat up Daffy, and, let's face it, Bugs gets, the bitter end of the stick sometimes, but a lot of times Daffy is usually the one who gets his comeuppance, especially in a lot of the old Looney Tunes shows. Or at least I remember it mostly being Daffy who gets the comeuppance. Now, I know Bugs sometimes gets screwed over, but not as much as Daffy does, so I guess that makes sense. Then, when he finally goes down the hall, which went from a nice, pristine look to a decaying, wretched place, full of nothing but old memories and nostalgia, he sees all his friends just violently attacking each other or acting in a manner that, when you look at it from the perspective of the reader, seems rather dark, but if you think about it from the old perspectives of the old shows, it seems just like the old shows. And then he says it's a price of maturity. It's them growing up. It's them becoming more violent. Also showing off a little bit of a layer where, when we grow up, we tend to be more violent. Don't get me wrong, kids can be stupid and violent. There are times when kids in this show do stupid things, maybe like hit each other or like knock on the arm, but nothing like beating each other up, knocking each other out, trapping each other in cages. And that's, again, par for the course in Looney Tunes. But it also seems to be able to relate back to the main series. And that's why I like this story. It makes it a lot more interesting than it would have been if it was just blood was in a cartoon. So, what do you guys think? Do you think this was a good story, or do you think this was cliche? I think it was a great look at the lost episode genre, and I feel that even though, again, quick mention, this is a sponsored episode, someone paid me to read this. But, despite putting away any sort of nostalgia I may have for, again, getting $20 on Patreon, I have to say, as a creepypasta, I feel this is a better creepypasta than most lost episodes I've seen. It's way better than that Scooby-Doo one I read a long time ago, which coincidentally was also the thumbnail for that was drawn by the Recurrent. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Creepypastas. I'll try to have something up again tomorrow, but, it's 2:59 in the morning, and I can't find anything long to read. Feel free to suggest an episode, and if you want to support the show more, simply send a donation through PayPal, which is on the, you can submit it through the email address you have on the screen right now, which is, right there on screen. Or you could donate to Patreon. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr. Send in a question, make a post on Facebook, contact me on Facebook, contact me on Twitter, whatever. Anything really helps the show. And if you really want to help the show, watch it. Simply watch the episodes, leave the ad blocker off, and you, again, help me out. So, yeah, if you want to help, just watch the show, or you could do more by, again, following those social medias. This has been your host, That Creepy Reading, signing off.